All right, we're back. It's time for your weekly recap.
We're back.
We are back. Still no rapture. So
Still no rapture.
if it did, y'all here too. Welcome
Yeah.
as we work through the tribulation, I guess. Uh, so
That's right.
this was a fun week. This was a fun passage. Um, I love. First of all, I love that you said that you almost skipped this passage.
Yeah.
But I think I love even more that you talked yourself into it. I think,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
um, so a big part of really, I mean, one of the main parts of this passage is, um, really knowing it's the identity. Moses working through his, identity issues, uh, even post coming off of this encounter, on Sinai,
Yeah.
he's still struggling to see who he is. And
Yep.
this passage, you made it clear how vital it was for the readers of Exodus to understand that this was a transition text. So
Yep.
I guess my first question is like, what was it that made you go, okay, we're gonna have to do this. We're going.
Yeah. So obviously, if you read the text, you know that it's not like um, it's not like a PG text, right? Like there is circumcision, like all of that's happening in the text, and it's very graphic. The first thing is that it's one of those "whoa" moments.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make a lot like, why? This seems extreme, right? Um, and then the second thing is the chiasm there,
Yeah.
where just a portion that has these repetitive sort of themes in a very short, like, segment.
Hmm.
And then began to notice as well, like, how this actually was gonna begin to lay out the way that really the whole book is set up, that, you know so, that was why, and then but really and truly, it comes down to the scene where Zipporah circumcised her son and throws it at Moses' feet. And what caught my attention was obviously how extreme that is, but
Right.
more of like what that's saying to Moses, that Moses is being reminded again that he is a Hebrew and that he is like included in this family of God. And I think that was what really got me. So that's kind of where I'm at, is that, you know, it that's what made me stop and say, I can't just skip this and go to the plagues.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it is. I was talking to some guys here at work yesterday. I was kind of going through notes toward the end of the day, and some guys come in and they saw what I was working on. And they're like, "Well, what's the podcast about this week?" And so I told them about it, and of course they reacted about how most normal functioning human beings react to that verse. Like, what in the world? And I was like, I compared it to like when your mom calls you into the house, and she calls you by your first name or your nickname, and you may hear it, you may not. But if she drops, Jordan Christopher Rains, everything comes to stop. Wrath cometh.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
you shut it down and you listen, and that's what this was. This was a giant. Hey, something's happening here.
Something's
Uh,
happening.
it's you mentioned the chiasms. I guess I have seen that in other, I guess, in other ways, but, like, I've just never put that together, especially with scripture. Um, and you do see the patterns there. Once
Mhm.
once you're made aware of it, you do see it. Uh, is there a is there another example, maybe outside of Exodus, of a chasm that stands out to you that you could talk about, maybe?
I think there's one in Genesis 14 that also caught my attention, but I can't remember, like, what it actually is.
Mhm.
I just remember that I remember Genesis 14, and
Yeah.
I remember, like, there's something repetitive in there, and I remember thinking like, "Whoa, wait a second. Let me look real quick
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
while I'm here, while I have it all here." So it's not 14. Maybe it's 18. Not 100% sure. Somewhere in there. Because I remember when I was teaching through the Genesis series, how important it became. Like, oh, this is a repetitive theme over again. And so, and I remember having on the board the ABC, like CBA
Yeah,
type things. So it's like, so what, what you're looking for in scripture, they're all through there, are like kind of the ABC pattern. And like, there is like in this one, there's marriage mentioned at the beginning and the end of the passage. There's an encounter with God mentioned between Moses and Aaron at the beginning and the end of a passage. And then there's the firstborn where it all kind of like comes to a head. Um, Let me look at something real quick because I have some on my computer.
sure.
Here's like a simple one that I have written down. I don't know. I think that this is like it's a literary structure, number one. And it's the same idea, but it's mirrored kind of in reverse order. So, kind of giving you one from like Jesus. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and the other like you'll love, or you'll be devoted to one and you'll despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Right?
Right,
That's just saying the same thing in reverse order,
right.
right? Just flipped. So, that's what's happening here as well, and so I noticed that, and I was like, "Oh, this is important."
Yeah.
And
Uh,
where that's at with Jesus, that's the Sermon on the Mount, so,
yeah, yeah,
like, it's important, listen up, right?
yeah. We've talked in these first couple weeks, obviously about the use of hyperlinks and callbacks. Uh, we were introduced to chiasms. So once again, we're looking for these patterns as we read. And again,
Mhm.
the goal is to always, you know, read these scriptures faithfully by looking for Jesus. And these tools are just more ways for us to find him in
Yeah.
these scriptures. Um, so we start Moses he starts his journey through the wilderness back to Egypt, after having this encounter. Um, we get this moment, right, with him and Zipporah. Moses is still struggling with his identity, despite this encounter on the mountain, and despite the commission, the promise from God, "Hey, I'm going with you." A big point you made that I put in the notes here is, if you don't understand who you are, the wilderness will kill you because
Yeah.
you will try to navigate it your way. And then you went on to say that the invitation into the wilderness is to learn how to be with God, is to learn the ways of God. And so basically, like before Moses can lead these people through the wilderness, he's got to understand who he is.
Yeah, he's being given this invitation to come and know God in a particular way, so that when he, starts being a shepherd himself, which is what we're actually about to see,
Hmm.
when he starts shepherding these people himself, he's been led by the good shepherd,
Yeah.
and before you can take people to a place that, you know, before God can get people to a place that he wants to take them, he typically has to take someone that is going to be a leader within that group of people through that same sort of walk of life. And that's exactly what we see with Moses Moses goes out into the wilderness, and the whole time that he's out there, like, you see or what we see in the text is that God is trying to convince him and have these conversations with him over and over and over again. Like, "I am your father. I'm not gonna leave you. I'm not gonna forsake you.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not gonna abandon you." Like, that's the like, he's giving him like, "I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob," right? I didn't leave them, and what he's trying to get across to Moses, he's not gonna leave him either. And when we see sorry, when we see wilderness, like, events, understanding who you are, like, that's what you have to fall back on sometimes when things are dry,
Yeah,
when life is happening, when everything is spiraling in a direction that you are having a hard time understanding, like, where you're going, what you're doing,
yeah,
like, where you're coming from. Um, if you can understand who you are, that is something that you can lean into as you are trying to navigate the wilderness, especially with other people. It's the common old thing that, like, like, if you're gonna lead somebody else somewhere, you have needed to been there first,
right.
right? And that's the hardest thing. Like, Moses God is trying to convince Moses of this because he's about to try to convince a whole nation of this.
Yeah.
And the way that he's going to is through Moses and Aaron. But, you know, if you don't understand that fundamental, like, point of our faith that God is my father and he is going to take care of me. Like, if he dresses the lilies, like, how much more like will he clothe me, right? If we being evil, like, know how to give good gifts, how much
Yeah.
better is our Father in heaven? And it's like a lot of times that doesn't come together for us.
Yeah.
And so understanding who we are and who God is, like, he never leaves, he never forsakes us. That sustains us through seasons of life where we're unsure how we're going to be sustained.
So Moses is he's not handling this wilderness situation great.
Most people don't.
He's struggling, and yeah, most of us don't. You you went on to talk about, 3 things that will kill you in the wilderness.
Mhm.
And uh the first being, your former visions of God. Um the second being the former voices, and then fear of the unknown. And it's the as far as the first one there, the your former visions of God. In a lot of cases, most cases, this is the God that was handed to you by your grandma, or the pastors that you grew up under, the youth pastors, whoever it might be, or just the example laid out for you by the adults in your life. This is that God that's laid in your lap.
Mhm.
And how do we, I guess this is the part of when we talk about the deconstruction movement. you know this is the part that I can sometimes get on board with. Like, how do we leave behind this transaction mindset
Yeah.
when it comes to our relationship with God? And
Yeah, that's go ahead, sorry.
oh, and then just to tag with it, like, how do we start seeing him as a father instead of a pharaoh?
Yeah, so that was the main point that I made on Sunday is a lot of times that when we're talking about God, what we have in our mind is a control freak who sits up in the sky waiting on us for to behave rightly, and when we behave rightly, he loves us and is approved of us,
Mhm.
and, like, we are totally accepted and welcome to the table and all of that. But when we misbehave, then we are not accepted,
Yeah,
and somehow that changes God's posture and feeling towards us.
yeah,
And what what I'm naming there is that the reason that Moses is struggling so deeply is because Moses has grown up with the authority in his life, the God figure in his life being like Pharaoh. Work harder, get rewarded. Don't work hard, don't get rewarded. Do the right things, reward comes through. Do the wrong things, well, a beating comes through.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we have that vision of God. Like we have the vision of God where if we do right, he's good. If we do wrong, he's disappointed.
Yeah.
And the thing that I would caution people, like in believing, is that if that's the case, then your behavior then gets to dictate how good God is, and your behavior dictates God's move, and your behavior or lack of behavior then makes God either himself and or it makes him not himself, right? And if that's the case, then he's not God, you are.
Yeah.
You are dictating God's identity based off of your behavior. You're dictating whether God is faithful based off whether you act right. You are dictating whether God is good if you're getting it all, if you're hitting all the marks, right? If you're reading your Bible enough, you're praying enough, you're fasting enough. And it's like all of that stuff, like you trying to work for God's approval will never work. Like God is already has already approved.
Yeah.
God is already accepted. God is already included. And you are just being made aware of that. And I think one of the things that's so frustrating for people, like one of the things that's so frustrating for people when they hear this message is a lot of times the voices of Pharaoh don't let us believe those things are true.
Yeah.
Like, uh, I was recently in a conversation a couple days ago um, with a friend, and they were talking about their passion for the Bible and all this, and it was great. And I like walked away from that conversation, and I was like, okay, I wonder if people just believe that like we were included, we were co-crucified, co-buried, co-resurrected, and we are co-seated with Christ, like in heavenly places. Do people believe that? Or like they don't? And
Yeah.
it's hard to believe that when life doesn't look like that. And one of the things that like this following Jesus has been like disguised as is this escape from all of reality. And it's not an escape from reality. It's an invitation to have the peace that comes from a different reality in a present reality that transforms the world. It's the invitation to have a joy that comes from a different realm that
Mm.
transforms this one. It's the invitation to love in a way that transforms the world. And really what it boils down to is like I don't care how much Bible you know. I don't care how often you pray. Like I don't care if you fast 4 days a week. Like are you can you love your enemy? Like can you love the people who hate you? And
Yeah.
can you stay out of freaking Christian holy wars? Anyways, it's my 2 cents there.
Well, it's funny you say that. So, like, the next thing, the former voices, the echoes of Egypt, I think this is kinda where the deconstruction movement and I clash, I guess.
Uh-huh.
How do we go about dealing with the voices who have given us this incorrect vision of God without, like you said Sunday, without dehumanizing them? I'm struggling to speak
Yeah.
English all of a sudden. These voices tend to not just be humans, but in a lot of cases, they're family, they're friends,
Mhm.
people we look up to and we idolize. And then there's the flip side of that coin, where these are the voices of people who've caused us harm and severe trauma, like that.
Yeah.
Some of those are 10 times louder than the people we idolize.
Mhm.
And in fact, in most cases, that's the case. How do we, how do we deal with those voices without, at the same time, hey, you're welcome at the table,
Yeah. So this is where people have a tough time in our society, especially in the age. Me and Jansen were actually talking about this earlier. Uh, especially in the age of identity politics, where what you believe becomes who you
You
are.
are.
Meaning, like, it's like if you believe this one thing, then you're automatically on this side. If you believe this one thing, you're automatically on the other side, and there's no way to differentiate between a belief that someone has and still this person is a human being. So every person that handed you everything, for the most part, I am saying for the most part, probably was doing it out of a good place
Mhm.
and a right intention. That does not mean that, like, it's okay. That doesn't mean
Sure.
that your pain is not real. It doesn't mean that what they said about God is not despicable. Like, um,
They're handing you the
what it
same voice that was handed to them.
handed to them. You
Yeah.
have to see that people have been sinned against, and they don't know any other thing other than to perpetrate this, even by, like, not on purpose. Because if you were to show them the outcomes of, like, think about this, for instance, like purity culture. Let's just think about purity culture for a second.
I try
The
not to.
people who Yeah, yeah, I mean, the people who started purity culture, I'm sure that they didn't have bad intentions.
Sure.
But the fruit of purity culture has become a bunch of people who have no self-control, right? Who
Yeah.
think that they're owed, like, yeah, something from their spouse, in the sense of, like, yeah. So I'm not gonna get off on that tangent too much, but the people who obsess over purity culture, like, I mean, they're some of the least pure people I know,
Yeah.
right? And it's like the people who started that had pure intentions, like, ironically. Like,
Mhm.
but what it became was an extreme that began to harm people. And, like, Pastor Casey Doss said a long time ago, and Tom says this all the time, like, a strength overextended becomes a weakness.
Yeah.
And these voices in our lives that believed things that are true, when they become extremes, they often become that you get in error. And anytime an extreme becomes anytime a a thing that is not the main thing, that is Jesus, becomes the central focus, bet your bottom dollar that you're off pace here. You're off the track.
Yeah.
And so I think these voices that handed us beliefs that they were handed, we welcome them to the table. We just disagree.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We are saying things about God, like, be committed to saying more faithful things about God, more beautiful things about God. And when you do that, you're probably going to find yourself saying more true things about God. And, like, the text, like the scripture, like what you see in scripture over and 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 over again, is that we screw this up and God keeps showing up
Yeah.
saying, "You screwed this up again, but I'm here."
Yeah.
Because if I'm being honest, like, this is about the being with God anyway.
Yeah.
And once we get out of our minds the things that come after that, I think we begin to do the things that come after that,
Yeah.
which is, like, once we are with God, like, we start to look like Jesus.
Yeah.
We start to bear the fruit that Jesus had in his life.
We begin to
And then
show them a better way.
yeah, and then people begin to eat the fruit of that. I I'll never forget this. I was doing a wedding several, I guess it's been over a year or two ago now, and it was right after I was ordained as a deacon. and I had, like, my collar on and stuff, and I go to do this wedding, and it's, like, chaotic, and there's a non-denominational, like, church there where it's, like, everything is chaos, right? It's just chaos. It's worried about this, worried about that, worried about this, worried about that, and I remember, I'll never forget this. The mom said to me, she said, "As soon as you walked through the door, I knew everything was gonna be okay,
Yeah.
and there's just something about you that lets us know that everything's gonna be okay." And really, she wasn't saying that about me, she was saying that because there was something that was so settled within me, even in the middle of chaos, that she could eat the fruit of my peace,
Yeah.
and that is that is the best evangelism tool.
Yeah.
Like, you can pull your Bible out all day.
Yep.
You can show people where you believe what you believe all day.
Yeah.
Let me see it. Like, are you a jerk? Like, are you a jerk in the name of being passionate? Okay, well, passion's not a fruit of the spirit. Neither is boldness.
Say that again.
And it's like, so, like, even if there's people who you disagree with,
Sure.
you're never gonna convince them through being a passionate jerk that God is better than you think he is, right?
Right.
And you're not gonna, if you're on the other side, you're like, "Oh, you're off in la la land, man." Like, you believe that God's just good and that he doesn't have any wrath to him, and, like, you've really fallen off the track here. It's like, well, you being a jerk about it isn't gonna convince me that what you're saying is true. Like, you can eat the fruit of my life, and we can go from there. And so, silencing those voices, honestly, like, I think this is a good analogy. Like, the way that those voices get silenced is they begin to eat the fruit of your life.
Yeah.
Like, you can't talk while you're eating. And so the way that those voices get quieted is they begin to eat the fruit of your union with God that you learned about out here in the wilderness on this mountain. The way that Moses was invited into this invitation. The way
Mhm.
that you silence former voices that may have caused you harm, that may have told you lies about Jesus, and I don't just mean, like, physical voices, I mean that, like, the thing that you can't get out of your mind about who God is, the way that you silence all of that is just let the fruit speak for itself.
Yeah. And I could tell you, like, just in my journey over the last few years, like, that's the fruit that has hooked me in. And that vision of who he is and the Father, um, number 1, it resonates in me. You know, I grew up in churches and where people like to say that a lot. Like, that was their cue to lead into some kind of prophetic word they're getting to give. This is resonating in me. This is and
Mhm.
I used to say that, and I never really knew what that meant or felt like until just like the last 4 years, where, like, I remember sitting in, you know, some different messages with you and Pastor Casey, where I looked at Katie, I was like, "Why does that feel like it makes so much sense? Like,
Yeah.
why does that heal my heart? Why does that heal my soul?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is this what salvation feels like?" You know, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and
Yeah.
it's caused me to use the verbiage when people ask me, "Are you saved?" Or, "Hey, this so and so got saved this week." Like, I don't like my vision of what salvation looks like now is completely different because the transaction side of things has been removed with me,
Yeah.
and it's
God is saving me from myself over and over and
over and
over
over.
again.
It's just me becoming aware, you know,
Yes. Yes.
and it's the fruit of that I have seen you know, is creating this safe place for others to come eat from that same fruit, right? And it's,
Mhm.
um, you know, when you silence the voices, I think you may you phrase I'm paraphrasing a little bit. When you silence the voices, you're safe to fail and
Yep.
know that I can fail and it's gonna be okay. And
Yes.
that is a game changer
Yeah.
because the third point, is fear of the unknown. Fear of failure is crippling. You're like,
As long as you see God as a transactional God, that his goodness and faithfulness towards you is based off of something that you do,
mhm,
you're gonna remain thinking and living like you're still stuck in Egypt.
yeah. I was telling somebody this story earlier today just because it's a funny story, but my dad and I are very close, and if you're around you've been around the 2 of us together,
Yeah.
uh, it's we're a problem, and so
Yeah.
but, I grew up really close to him, and he has still to this day such a, um, sweet spirit, um, when it comes to correcting specifically me. Now, my sister, I can't speak for her, maybe some things are different, but for
Yeah,
me,
that's funny.
I was never scared to come to him with issues, whatever that might be, and I remember I was telling somebody a story earlier. When I was younger, I was a little sponge, especially with him because, he's very sarcastic and has a
That's
real
good.
real fun twisted sense of humor, like myself.
Yeah.
And, but he made a joke one day. He was a bookstore he was running at the time. Somebody asked him, something along the lines of like, "Do you think I'm stupid?" And he, without flinching, looks right at her and goes, "Well, do you want me to tell you the truth or make you feel good about yourself?" And so that was his response. And all as a child, all I saw out of that was everybody laughed, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward 2 days later, I'm sitting in class and we're doing some work on the board and the teacher corrected my work. I knew it was right,
Yeah.
and
It's one of those days.
she's like, "Mr. Raines, do you think I'm stupid?" And I said, "Do you want me
That's
to tell you
good.
the truth or make you feel good about yourself?" And so at that particular
Oh, man, I
school,
love that.
what would happen then is you get sent to the office and they call your dad up there to deal with you. And so, like, I was in there. Here's the thing: my mom worked at this school. My grandmother worked at this school. My grandfather was the best friend of the pastor of this school. And so,
That's good.
like, there's a lot of whoopings to
Yeah.
to
Right, right,
to get through. But for
right,
whatever
right.
reason, they weren't there that day or something. Didn't have time to deal with me, so they called my dad. And I was telling them earlier, like, as soon as they said, "Jordan, your dad's on his way," I just took a deep breath.
That's awesome.
I just took a deep breath. I wasn't scared. Like, I immediately knew that I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And he walked in and it went about what you think it did. Just a lot of laughter and it's like,
Yeah.
we can't laugh in front of these people. We're gonna have to
Yeah. That's
we'll
awesome,
talk
man.
about this later.
That's
But
awesome.
we talk when you lean into trusting him and you brought this up, the best way to do that is intimacy. Back to what we talked about last week. It's returning back to the burning bush. And, we may have put those Egyptian shoes back on, while struggling, and it's returning back, stripping that away again, and leaning back into his voice. Um, that last point you made just was like, yeah, once again, we're sitting here in intimacy and learning to trust him, through this.
Yep. Yeah, you can trust God to lead you through the unknown when you can just trust him,
Yeah,
right? It's not about trusting him to do a particular thing, it's about being convinced of his nature and who he is.
yeah,
Once you're convinced of the nature of God and that he is a good father that doesn't do abandonment, that doesn't leave you in the
yeah,
wilderness, and that doesn't leave you out to dry, then at that point, you can trust him to take you anywhere, to do anything, and you know because he's gonna be there, you're gonna be fine. When you are convinced that you are his, when you are convinced that, Henry Nouwen talks about this in a Life of the Beloved, but when you are convinced that, like, you are his dearly beloved child, you can live without fear of, like, making a wrong decision,
Yeah.
turning to the left or turning to the right. It's like the Lord's gonna be there.
Yeah.
God's gonna be there. God is not sending you down paths that he hasn't been down before, and God is not sending you to places that he hasn't been before. And God is not asking you to do things that he's never done before. He's been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and is gonna go with us. And so fear of the unknown is something that'll keep us from going out into the wilderness, and often fear of the unknown will keep us from taking that next step, and we'll die. I believe this is what we see with Abraham when he leaves Haran in Genesis 11. I don't think that his dad was supposed to stop there. I think he's supposed to keep walking.
Yeah.
But the fear of the unknown, the fear of walking past that deepest place of hurt and pain, what's on the other side of this, for him, he didn't know, but could have led a whole generation into a land that they never had to want or need again. And
Or
so
heal from.
yeah, yeah, or heal from. That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah, it's good, man.
So almost out of time. I did have a note here just to kind of cap this off. Can you briefly talk about the parallels of this moment with Sephora and how it connects to Jesus with the baptism?
Yeah. So what's happening here is Moses is being identified as a child of God, and he's getting ready to go into the wilderness. And you're going to see that Moses leads a group of people into the wilderness, goes through waters of baptism, and and ultimately he does not succeed out here. What we're supposed to see here, though, is this sort of this figure in Moses's life, like, is giving him like this identity that the Father will speak over Jesus later, and that the Father speaks over us, that before Jesus goes into the wilderness, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased.
Mm,
Where Moses spends 40 years, Jesus spends 40 days. Where Moses fails, Jesus succeeds.
yeah.
And what I think that we're supposed to see is that Jesus is our better Moses.
Yeah.
And like when Jesus goes down into the waters of baptism, he doesn't just go down into the waters of baptism because Jesus needed to be baptized. Jesus was baptized for all of humanity's sake. Jesus was baptized for all of Israel's sake. Jesus was baptized for Moses' sake, Zipporah's sake. Jesus was baptized for their sake because he was sanctifying what they had failed at.
Yeah.
And I think what we can see there is that Jesus comes to make all wrong things right. So all of the wrong that happens in Moses and in Israel and in the people of God from, Joshua forward, like Jesus comes to make all of that right. And now we are given the invitation to participate in the life of Jesus and to make right all of these things as we walk down these journeys as well. And so, like, we don't go to the wilderness alone, we go to the wilderness the way that Jesus went.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that's the connection there.
Once again, Jesus bringing redemption to the stories
Yes.
from the Old Testament.
Yep.
Uh, and it's just another great example. Um, yeah, I mean, I still can't help but like think about, we have this moment. She throws the foreskin
Yeah.
at his feet,
Yeah.
and I can't think about like I can't help but think about like 3 days later, like the next time there's a big argument or something, and she's like, "I got something to say." Did all the kids just like flinch and run?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
They're
mean?
just
Like,
like, "This is awful."
yeah,
Like,
and then I saw like one version of it referred to like she went and found a sharp rock.
yeah, Flint Rock. Yeah.
Man,
It's not good, man.
that's not good. What is good is our Sunday services, and we've got 2 of them.
Yeah. We got 2 of them.
And, we're gonna be at both. Well, actually, I'm not. I won't be there this week. I won't be there this week. I'll be eating seafood somewhere, watching you guys. But, 2 services on Sunday. Pastor Cole will be there, and, we will continue on. Do you have a quick sneak peek for us before we shut her down?
Moses is getting ready to tell Pharaoh for the first time to let his people go. and that's
So,
it's gonna be what we're looking at this week and what that actually implies, and this sort of some cool Bible stuff as well with the staff and all of that stuff, and Moses being out, being a shepherd and then going back with a staff to all of Israel to look at Pharaoh, who would have also been carrying a staff of some sort of
mhm.
authority and saying that God gave me this, right? And like it's just a
It
cool
doesn't look like
picture.
yours.
No, 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 no. It's just a cool picture of like God doing this reverse Uno card, being like, I took this guy from your house and taught him how to be a shepherd out here in the field. And now I'm sending him back to Egypt to lead my people out of Egypt. And there's also some imagery of he's going to deliver them with a mighty outstretched hand. That's an Egyptian phrase that Pharaoh would use to crush his enemies, and the thing that Pharaoh uses to crush his enemies with a mighty outstretched hand, God uses to heal. He uses the same phrase. So we're going to look at all that this week. So
Well, I'll be watching. Be a
cool.
good time. And so, anyway, thanks for checking it out again, y'all, and we'll see you again same time next week.
Have a good one.
See you.